All right, geometry, this is Monday, March 31st. It's my third day out due to my buddy's wedding in South Carolina. Today you just finished up a warm-up that the sub had passed out to you, and it's probably about 15, 20 minutes into class. And we're going to take a look at those answers here, and then we're going to dive into actually two sections today, 7.4 and 7.5. Okay, and you already have the worksheet to guide you through the 7.4 with me. Here's the answer key to the 5 questions that you started with. Pretty clever, that little name of a monster I came up with, huh? Similar. That's how you normally say it. You don't just say similar. You have to add out the R. And that's how the monster is. Anyways, on these, you do not have to set them up the way I set them up. There's a couple ways that you can always set up these problems. But your answers should be the answers that I got. For example, on the very first problem, I did inches over spots equals inches over spots. But with that similar example, you could have done it a different way. You could have, if you wanted, say 8 inches over 12 inches equals 26 spots over X spots. Notice, this time I did inch over inch equals spot over spot, but I also did the small inch over the big inch, the small spot over the big spot. So make sure your fractions pair up correctly. So you could do inch over inch as spot over spot, or you could have done inch over spot equals inch over spot. Just don't flip the pairings around, okay? That's the most important part to it. If you have a little guy on top, on the other guy, you better also have a little guy. Or if you are doing it as giraffe A versus giraffe B, make sure the numbers line up. All of the A's are together, all of the B's are together. Okay. The key and the reason I had this as a warm-up is this helps us with 7.4. Because the whole idea of 7.4 is you're going to pair up items of a right triangle. Okay, so let's take a look at that and see how we can pair things up. Okay, 7.4, similarity in overlapping right triangles. Okay, so right now I have quite a few triangles up there. Okay, and luckily they're color-coded for you right now. On the worksheet, they are not color-coded, and it's just all black. And that's what makes this a little bit harder to visualize sometimes. But when I take a look at this, I'll peel them off. I have a red right triangle, I have a green right triangle, and I have the blue right triangle. And the green and red line up on top of the blue guy. So the green and red together make the blue guy. Okay? So on these type of triangles, there's going to be some problems involving solving for certain sides. And this is what I would always want us to do. I would want us to peel off and build the 3 triangles, okay, separately. So on a smartboard, it's really nice because I can just literally peel them off. But when we do it on the worksheet, we're going to draw them in separately. And for every right triangle, I want you to focus on there are 3 possible sides. We have the hypotenuse side. You can see it there, right here. Remember, the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. Always opposite the right angle. So on the other side of the right angle. So all the hypotenuses are going to be similar. We also have, I'm going to call this guy the short side. The short side. And over here, the short side. And then I'm going to have the last piece be called the long side, the long side, and the, long side. Now, if you can draw the 3 triangles, and if you can clearly identify who's short, who's long, and who's the hypotenuse, the problems are just like the warm-ups today. Because if you ever want to set up a similarity ratio, You could do something like this. Short, I'll color code it. You could say short to long is the same ratio as this guy's short to long. Or you could even attach to it, it's the same ratio as this guy's short to long. Now notice, as long as you pair up short to long is short to long, you're good. Okay. Another option, if you wanted, you could have said something like this long to this guy's long is equal to this guy's hypotenuse over, can you guess it? Would it be green or blue? Probably green. And I got a pattern match, so it's going to be this guy's hypotenuse. So as long as your color scheme and wording matches up, you're going to be fine. Okay? So as long as your color scheme and wording match up, you're fine. This would be one that would not work. I could do something, try to do something like this. Short to hypotenuse should equal long to short. Okay, this one here, I have the color scheme right. I have blue over green equals blue over green, kind of similar to the one up here, which was red over green, which is red over green, but the wording is all mixed up and jumbled. So you need to make sure the color pairing is correct and the word pairing is correct, okay, when we try and solve these similar ratios. So let's take a look at one. We're going to draw number 1, and I even laid out for you the little, the medium, and the big triangle part. And then I have a part where it says proportion and solve. So the whole key to this is, can you draw the triangles? Okay. So I'm going to try and, here I got that triangle. I'm just going to slide it right over to the little. Okay. So that triangle's there. And once you do that, label anything you see that you can do. This is an X, and that's an 8. Okay. Now I will try and do the medium triangle. So I have that, and I want to slide that. Yikes, it's getting a little bit too big, but I'm going to put it right there. Okay. And that is an 8 and a 16. Okay. Now the big triangle obviously won't fit in there, so just try and draw it like it looks. It's not just that. I mean, it's really this whole thing that you would be wanting to slide over. But do you agree, if I try to slide that over, I mean, we're talking way too big. So just try and draw it roughly, okay? Just so you understand that that's the whole big chunk together. Now notice, I did not draw the slice through the middle of that big triangle. I do not need you to draw that part in. That part meaning this part, because that's not part of the big triangle. When you draw the triangles, all you need to draw is the outside part of it. So don't draw anything on the inside. Okay? Now notice on this big triangle, I do not know this side. I do not know this side, but I do know this side. And you might go, no, I don't. I know part of it's 16 and part of it's an X, but I don't know the whole thing. Well, you do. If part of it's X and part of it's 16, the whole length to that triangle is the X plus 16. That would build up that entire length of the bottom part of the blue triangle. Okay? So with that, hopefully you can see splitting that 3-clumped triangle into 3 separate triangles, the little, the medium, and the big, and you want to label things. If you label things Okay, your goal is to solve for x. And the way I decide how to solve for x is I look for the two guys that have two different numbers or two different sides attached to it. So the blue side only has the x plus 16. That's only one length. The red side, though, has an x and an 8. And the green has an 8 and a 16. So I'm going to take these two guys, and I'm going to try and use those guys to solve. So when I look at it, I'm going to write, let's say, I'll color code this, x over 8. Now realize that x to me is the short guy, and the 8 is the long side to me. So I did short over long, better equal short over long. Now the short for the green guy is 8, and the long for the green guy is 16. So I have short over long equals short over long, red over red equals green over green, and from that we should be able to solve it. So I'm just going to cross multiply, and I get 16x equals 64, divided by 16, x equals 4. Okay, so let's try number 3 together, and then I'm going to have you practice 2 and 4 on your own. Okay, so 3, I'm just doing 3 instead of 2 because it's a little bit different shaped triangles. But you can still hopefully see 3 different triangles in it. When I look at the little triangle, there it is. I highly recommend you drawing it in that orientation. I've watched too many times students just do this, and this is what gets them messed up. They just go, here's a little, here's a medium, here's a big. And then they have no idea which side is which, because all of those triangles to me look about the same. So please draw them in the orientation that they are. Okay? So this, you don't have to draw it the exact same size, but it looks that shape. And from that, I have a 3 and an x. Okay? Now I'm going to look at the middle triangle, and I'm going to try and draw it somewhat accurately. And if you're going, wait, where did that come from? That is that piece. And I'm going to label that x and 27. Okay? And then the last piece is the entire thing, like that. So it looks like that. Now remember, I do not need to put this line into it, because that's cutting that big triangle. I don't want to cut it. I just want to show the perimeter or the outside of that blue triangle. So I do not need the yellow when I would draw that. Now when I look at the lengths here, I do not know the bottom. I do not know the side, but I do know that hypotenuse is a 3 and a 27, and 3 plus 27 is 30. Okay. Okay, so with that in mind, this kind of looks like the last example where I'm going to take the small and the medium, because the small is has a 3 and an x, and the medium has x and a 27. The blue guy only has one side. I don't want to use that. So I'm going to go red and green. Okay. Now I'm going to go 3 over x. And again, this to me was short over long. It doesn't matter how you pair it up, just as long as the next fraction matches this. 3 over x, so I did short over long, to me looks like x over 27. Okay? And now, once you do all of that work to set up one proportion, you can solve and get 81 equals x times x. How do I say that? X times x is not 2x. It is x squared. And then take the square root of that, and x equals 9. Okay? So now what I want you to do is I want you to hit pause on this video And then I want you to try out the other two problems. And then on the next slide, you will see if you did it correctly or not. Okay? So for right now, you're going to hit pause, take a look to see if they are right, and then hit resume, and you can check out to see if they are right or not. So pausing now. So I'm not just going to provide the answer key, I'm actually going to show you the work on this. So for the little triangle, it looks like that. And I have a 5 and an X. For the middle triangle, it's this part, so I'm going to have that look. Again, notice how I draw it with the correct orientation. And the only thing on that is a 15. And then on the big guy, it is going to be the whole mountain. The left side of it is X, and the bottom is 5 and a 15, which is a 20. Now I circle the two that have two sides. This time I do not use the medium, I use the little and the big. I'm going to solve. Okay? So I'm going to do X over 5. Now notice that X was the hypotenuse, and 5 to me was the short. So if I do hypotenuse over short, I better do the same over here. Hypotenuse on this guy is 20, and the short is X. With that, I should be able to solve. Cross multiply. X times X, we just learned on the last problem, is X squared equals 5 times 20, which is 100. So X equals 10. Okay? And the last one, again, key, draw it with the correct orientation. That's the hardest part again for you guys because it's hard sometimes to show the spatial relationships. This is a 2 and an X. The middle guy is this. And I only have the 16. And the last guy is the full out whole picture. I have an X, blank on bottom, but 2 and 16 is 18 total for the hypotenuse. Again, I'm going to use red and blue. Okay. And here we go. So I'm going to go here, X over 2. So that looks like hypotenuse over short. So I better do hypotenuse over short for the blue guy. So hypotenuse over short. And from that, you should be able to cross multiply. X times X is X squared equals 36. Square root. X is 6. Now, so far these 4 examples, all of the answers were nice. That does not mean they're always nice. You can have a square root of a non-perfect square. Okay, I'm just letting you know that. Okay. Coloring helps if you want to do colored pencils, but the biggest thing is making sure you draw the 3 triangles and draw them with the correct orientation. Okay. On homework, when you have these type of problems, you will not have a little chart that says little, medium, big. I would highly recommend you doing that so you can solve it correctly. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide. On this slide, I this time have upgraded the problem to an 8, a 2, an X, and a Y. So actually I'm going to want us to solve for an X and a Y. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to set up. All I want you to do is set up the little, medium, and big triangles and this chart. Solve for X and solve for Y. Okay. This video is going to end, and the sub is going to open up the next video for you. And while that's happening, you're building this picture, setting up the chart, and drawing the little, the medium, and the big, and then we'll take a look at how to solve this on the next video.